Hey, what's up? Joe Joe in the Morning family, and I hope you guys are excited, pumped up, and ready for this week. This week, we are going to talk about persistence. Now, the word persistence means staying the course over a long period of time, even in the midst of difficult situations or obstacles. Being consistent over a long period of time, even if there's obstacles, mountains, roadblocks in your way, being persistent. I love this because it's something that I've done for so many years. No matter what I felt like, no matter what season of the year it is, no matter if I felt absolutely amazing or could be struggling physically with something, or if it was sunny outside or if it was snowy, it does not matter to me. I am going to be persistent every single day. Throughout my life, I've seen so many people who have highs and lows, and there's so many seasons that when they're down, and they quit moving. And I was thinking, when I was young, I remember I was like, man, what would life look like if you were just persistent no matter what you felt like? I remember my dad, my dad was a cattle farmer. He had a cattle auction, and he also had a lot of pastures with a lot of cattle in it. And no matter what he felt like, he got up and he went and took care of things he was supposed to take care of. He was very persistent. All through life, I've seen so many amazing men and women of God that are older than me, been in ministry a lot longer than me. And I would be like, hey, give me a key tip. Give me something to your success in ministry or life or marriage. And one of the things people always talk about, successful people talk about, is they are persistent. There's been times when we were in a rough season, but you know what? We kept showing up. I remember one day a pastor told me, he said, Joe, there was a city came against me. A lot of people came against me. The local newspapers wrote articles against me. I'd done nothing wrong. And he said, my wife was like, I don't even want to go to church today, but we went anyway. And all these people in our town were coming against us so harshly. And we went, we were persistent. And we had an amazing service, and our church showed us so much support. And within a year, we were basically leading a citywide revival. In the midst of a time that we should have gave up, in most people's eyes, we were persistent. We pushed through the difficult situation, and things started to change. So many times in life where people lose money in investing is when, like in the stock market, when things are red and things are going down, people jump out. No, that's actually the time to buy. Well, whenever the real estate's going low, and you need to get out, and everybody's selling. Well, long-term persistent investors are buying real estate when everybody else is selling. Okay, that's how it is in life. We got God, good and bad, good season, bad season. You got God, and He will always get you through if you choose to stay persistent. I tell people all the time, consistency is the key. All right. So first scripture that I want to share with you is Galatians 6:9. And let us not grow weary of doing good, for in due season you will reap if you do not give up. What does if you do not give up mean? It means being persistent. So I want to ask you a question right now. How are you in your faith? Like in your walk with God, how persistent are you? 31 years ago, I started something in my life, and I've been doing for 31 years. Mark 1:35, Jesus got up early in the morning, went to a solitary place where He prayed. Everybody that comes in contact with me, everybody that knows me, knows that I am a person of prayer. I am persistent in prayer. I have consistency in prayer, and I will be found in the prayer room every single morning, bright and early. Before the sun comes up, I will be in the place of prayer. Why? Because I am persistent. I will work every single day. It doesn't matter how I feel. In fact, that's a question that I really don't like. Hey, how are you feeling today? I really don't like that question, because I'm going to be persistent if I feel like it or not. If I want to do what I'm called to do or not, I'm going to do it because I am persistent. If you're going to be successful in anything in life, and I'm talking about in your walk with God. Do you have a successful walk with God? Do you have a successful marriage? Are your kids doing good? How successful are your kids? How is your ministry? How is your business? How are the relationships God has given to you? You know, friendship is work. you've got to get in there and love one another, okay? How are you persistent? If your friend's doing bad, do you turn your back on them, or do you dive in deep and help them? Are you a persistent friend? Are you helping people? A lot of people don't get that in life. That's why a lot of people struggle, because they're never persistent. They start things, but they never finish things. We've got to learn how to finish strong. You know, I'm sure you've heard the story about Billy Graham, that when he really came on the scene doing evangelistical crusades, there were 3 gentlemen that came on the scene at once. And out of the 3, they said most people would say of the 3, Billy Graham was probably in 3rd place. He was the least talented, had the least charisma and everything. He was the least of the 3. But what people did not understand is he was so persistent. I've heard stories about there were times that he was getting ready to preach and they had threats that people were coming into the meetings with guns. And you know what? He preached anyway. In fact, I've heard testimonies of people who said, we came into the crusades with guns and got saved. Persistence. How do you feel? If you feel like it, if you don't feel like it, you've got to move forward. You've got to advance by the things of the Spirit. Luke 11:9-10. And I tell you, ask and it will be given to you. Seek and you will find. Knock and it will be open. For everyone who asks, they will receive. And the one who continually seeks, they will find. And the one that keeps on knocking, that door will be open for them. You've got to keep on seeking, keep on praying, keep on believing, okay? And so I tell people a lot of the times, if you pray and you believe, you will receive. But you got to keep on praying. You got to keep on believing to receive the very things that God has for you. Persistency. I remember one day I was talking to somebody that we know, and they were going to a friend of ours' house, and it was a few cities over, and this person said, asked them, say, hey, well, how was y'all's time together? And they said, I never got there. And I said, what happened? They said, well, it was foggy, and I was looking for them, and I couldn't get a hold of them, and where they were at, I really didn't have any service, and so I just gave up looking for the place because I couldn't get, my devices to work because it was kind of out in the country, so there was no range. I said, well, where were you at? And they explained to me perfectly where they were at. They were going down a road, and they got frustrated on this curve for looking for this place for 2 hours. So in that curve, they just turned around and came back. The person's house they were looking for was around the curve, first driveway to your right. They were so close. They drove like 3 cities over, and they were literally 50 yards away from this driveway. How many times in your life have you been so close to your God-given breakthrough? I'm talking about the breakthrough that can change everything, the breakthrough that could shift everything in your life. And you quit being persistent. You stopped your consistency, and you literally gave up 50 yards from your breakthrough. I remember I had a business when I was younger, a little side hustle, and I worked this thing, and I just was barely even breaking even. And one day I was like, you know what, no big deal. I worked hard. I learned a lot through this. I'm just going to kind of stop doing it, and I'm going to go put my efforts somewhere else on another side hustle. And I felt the Holy Spirit say, give it 72 hours. And I said, all right, that's fine. But I'm not working anymore. I'm not investing any more of my time into this thing. But I'll keep the business going, and I'll come back in 72 hours. So I came back in 72 hours. From that point, I did not work it anymore, but I kept that little business open. And I went back. It was online. It was digital. And so I go back to it, and it was up 300%. How are you going to work something for 6 months and it really not have any breakthrough? And then when you take your hands off of it, in 72 hours, it's up 300%. Because persistency. And what you got to understand, is, see, I had sown the seeds of my work and my effort for 6 months. And all of a sudden, it started to produce fruit. The harvest came in. I think I did that business for 3 more years. Very lucrative business. It was something I was doing. I knew it was something I was going to do for a season. But if I would have stopped, I wouldn't have got the 300%. And then a season after that, it was very good for 3 more years. And so a lot of times we stop right before our breakthrough. I remember years ago, I used to do a revival service on a certain night of the week, certain time of the month, and I was just constantly going. And it got to where you wouldn't even have to promote what you were doing, and people would just show up to it because they knew first Friday of every month. And so you can get into a rhythm of persistency that things are going to pay off for you. I have so many people that we're connected with through Roar Church, Texarkana, the Next Level Mentoring family, and then partners with Joe Joe Dawson Ministries. And a lot of times people will be like, hey, we didn't want to text you too early because we knew you would be in prayer. We knew that we didn't want to message you before 8 a.m. because we knew you were spending your time with the Lord. And I'm like, well, my phone's down and it's on silent, so you can message me anyway. But people know that is my time with the Lord because I am persistent in my pursuit of God. Like, how persistent are you? I was telling a young man recently, he was talking to me about marriage. And I said, the thing about marriage is my wife and I, when we got married, we're both really on fire for God. Our health was in, great, we're in a great place physically, because before you get married, you always want to have your health on point. And he was laughing. I said, but let me tell you something about our health. On our 20th anniversary, 3 kids later, my wife put back on her wedding dress, and I was wearing the same size of jeans that I wore the day that we got married. 20 years later. I said, when you get married, you press in harder to God. You take better care of yourself. You see people who get married and then all of a sudden, oh, I'm married now. They quit taking care of themselves. And all of a sudden they may have problems in the marriage. Well, you were super spiritual when I married you, or you were making good finances when I married you, and now you backed up. No. Once you get married, you become more persistent. Okay, when you have kids, you become more persistent. The longer you walk with God, you are more persistent. I was talking to a minister, and good guy, lost his fire a little bit. He said, man, when I was young, I would read the word an hour a day. I would pray an hour a day, 2 hours of my day I dedicated to God. I said, well, what happened, man? Like, what happened? What happened to your fire? What happened to your walk with God? Last week I was on a prayer getaway for 3 days. You know why? Because that's what I do. That's who I am. I spend that time with God because I'm building myself up. I'm persistent. When I met Autumn, before we had our 3 kids, I was a man of prayer. I was a man of fasting. I took care of my physical body. I was always working on our finances. I'm always working on my mindset, trying to better myself, reading books, listening to podcasts, being a student of the Word. And being persistent in that is what's kept me going in life. I keep leveling up in every single thing that I do. And so I want to encourage you today, whatever is important to you, don't just coast through life, but be persistent in what you're called to do. Be persistent in your relationships. Be persistent in your communications. And through that, you're going to see yourself where you want to be in a very short moment. Like, it could be 3 months, 6 months, a year down the road. You're going to see yourself where you want to be because you're persistent in the things that will take to get you there. Okay? Hey, I love you guys. If you want prayer for anything, please go to the website, jojoedawson.net. If you want to know about the Next Level Mentoring family, you can go to Next Level with jojoandautumn.com. Everything you need to know is on there. All right. Love you guys. See you tomorrow. Hey, what's up, social media family? We have an exciting announcement for the Next Level Mentoring program. We are now offering a 12-week course called the Fast Track.
In the Fast Track, you will have a customizable track that you can follow for 12 weeks of accelerated growth in whatever area of ministry, life, or business you want to grow in.
You know, we're really getting this program to set you up to win in life, to succeed. For 12 weeks, Autumn and I are going to be in your life on a weekly phone call to help challenge you over 12 topics to help move you forward and advance the kingdom assignment on your life.
For more information, you can click on the description box below to find out how to get started on the Fast Track.
And remember, we're always in your corner.